everyone. Welcome to the Kolpak and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the Forum's Jeff Kolpak. I'm Dom Izzo. We've reached February, which means Kolpak is on vacation mode. And T-minus how many days?
Just a couple.
I need a countdown clock here in the studios.
Well, here's the thing. The Arizona weather ain't much better than it is here anymore.
Fargo's pretty darn good.
Jeez.
Did you go hit some balls?
No, but I wanted to.
I was going to say,
wish.
we had Goose Howell on Hot Mic the other day over at Moray Country Club, and they were storming the gates over there to go hit balls for the next couple days. It's unreal. I didn't have a coat on yesterday afternoon when I went outside.
And you're a hardened, I'm a
Northeasterner, man.
Yeah.
We're used to bad weather in early February.
You're used to 7 feet of snow in your front driveway.
Yes, this is unnatural. It's been nice. I would say last night's basketball games, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of mirror scheduling. I've wasted too much time on it. No one wants to change it. But I said it during the broadcast at the Shack last night. That was the loudest I had heard it for a women's basketball game since that place reopened as the Shack. I think it was louder than the Minnesota game last year. When the Bison tied it at 57, that was pretty darn good.
What's that say for South Dakota State's composure down
really
the stretch?
Good. Yep.
But I think, and I know you said a win was necessary or nothing else. And going into the game, I disagreed with that. And I'm maintaining my stance. I think I saw enough from the Bison women to say that, yes, they can make a run in March. They are physically able enough to hang with the Jacks in March. They are long enough. Now, the Jacks had a better point guard.
Yeah.
And that was the difference down the stretch with Paige Meyer.
Yep.
But if NDSU can somehow neutralize that in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, I think they have a chance in March. I do. And I saw enough, last night where I think, would it be an upset? Yes. But would it be a major crazy upset? Would it be USA 1980 over the Russians? No, they're not at that point.
If they play in March, it's going to be to the level of that because it's going to be a road game. You know that because it's going to be in Sioux Falls. It would be quite the task if NDSU were to somehow make it to that far.
How many times have I told you about the odds of sports and at some point things end?
Right now it hasn't ended on the women's front. It's 20 in a row.
But at some point. But you have to be good enough to be able to end it, too. And we have not seen that nearly with this Bison women's program.
I mean, the fact that it was tied with 1:40 to go against South Dakota State, that's unheard of. I said that to Amy as we're on the air yesterday. That is unfamiliar territory in the Division I.
And now they got to figure out how to close it. Yep. You got to that point, and it's always steps, I think. It's hard to take that next step. But they got to the step where now they can compete with them for almost 37 minutes, 38 minutes. Now you got to find a way to close that final two. I don't know if you can do that this year, but I think they have a chance.
So here's the possessions. After Evans made both free throws to tie it at 57 with 1:40 to go, Meyer made that great move for the layup to give the Jacks the lead. She's fantastic. She's really good. That made it 59-57. Bison had a turnover after that. Tori Nelson made 2 free throws, put them up 4. Bison then made 1 of 2 at the line with Heaven Hamling. They fouled Paige Meyer. She made 1 of 2. Then Abby Schulte turned it over, fouled, missed a free throw, had another turnover, and then a shot clock violation to go in. That was an ugly end of the game.
Composure. Yep. South Dakota State clearly had the better composure when it counted down the stretch, and that's the mark of a veteran team. That's what they do. And that NDSU has some veterans, but they're not at that level of composure with the South Dakota States of the world when it really counts. And again, they have a month to make that up and figure it out.
What I saw, even with SDSU's 2 of its best players not playing, they are still dynamite talent. Brooklyn Meyer, I don't know what she's doing in the Summit League. She's a Power 5 player in my mind. You saw that last night.
Yeah, maybe she will next year. She's a sophomore.
She got whatever she wanted down low last night. That's a
she
tough
did
player
convert, I thought, as much as she could.
No, the Jacks missed some layups, and that I'll go to that. The Bison
missed a lot of layups. Yeah,
to start the game,
contested layups,
6 layups early on.
Some
of them were bunnies. I will say that. Forgive the pun, but they
bunnies
were there.
In traffic. I'll call you that. Yeah. But you got to finish those.
Yes, Draper had a couple down low, and
they short-armed it,
and they had 16, 17 turnovers. You're not going to beat the Jacks with that. You got to play nearly perfect, and you're right. They made strides, but that albatross is over them, that they still have not been able to do it. And everybody thought, at least I think people that cover the league thought, well, maybe the Jacks are vulnerable with Timmer and Tyson not playing. Man, here they are, unbeaten, 8-0 with a nearly 40-game conference regular season win streak going. And I don't see anybody beating them.
Not in the regular season this year. No,
and
it's going to take something unique in March.
And when you get to that tournament, those are 3 home games for them there in Sioux Falls. I don't know. It's gonna take a special performance for somebody to
Bison men
beat
have done pretty decent against South Dakota State in Sioux Falls.
The women's a different animal, though.
But they haven't been good enough. They haven't been good enough.
I'll be interested to see what happens on Saturday. We're taping this Friday, so the Bison go right back into the frying pan and go play in Grand Forks. And I know UND is scuffling on the women's side right now, but this is a game they got to flush it quick. They cannot let the lingering defeat of SDSU affect them for this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I detected in postgame an element of that.
Yeah.
I think that was almost behind them already. And Jory went into this weekend thinking it's a weekend.
Yeah.
It wasn't all eggs in South Dakota State's basket, and then if you don't get that one, then what?
I will say, though, it was dynamite atmosphere.
Yeah.
I thought it was great, and I'm going
Brought me back to the glory days a little bit.
I don't want to dovetail off this too much, but if the men weren't playing last night, Kolpak, how many more people you think are there? 500 to 700 more people?
Probably.
I do.
Yeah.
I really believe that. Then we're talking over 2,000 on a Thursday night for the Bison women. That's not heard of in the Division I era.
How loud, and it's never been packed for a basketball game. How loud, I'd be curious, would that place get with 5,000 fans?
So I'll tell you this. I found that out last March when Fargo North was there to win the state championship. It was pretty freaking loud. It was fantastic. Yeah. It was packed, and it was loud for the semifinal night when North beat Century, and when they won the state championship, it was fantastic. So we can get there with a full house.
It's taking a high school game to figure that out.
It's disappointing that it happened for a North Dakota State game, but it's pretty darn good when you can get that many people. Meanwhile, as an afterthought, the Bison men go to Brookings and end an 8-year drought down there with an overtime win. That is already their 5th overtime game of this season. The Bison, by the way, are 4-1 in overtime. That's, for a team that's been scuffling, that's pretty darn good. They won an overtime game at Western Michigan. They won overtime against San Jose State, game we televised that was fantastic against Tim Miles. Won a double overtime game at Kansas City. Last night against SDSU, and they lost an overtime game at Omaha.
Had some big buckets from Lance Waddles.
Yeah,
I thought he would be better at this stage of his career than what he's been. He hadn't been playing for a month,
and he came off the bench and was dynamite last night. Made some shots.
Derek Doucette played 22 minutes.
And Feddersen obviously had the game-winning shot with the tip, who's, I think, is just continue to blossom. And you look, and if you look at the standings today, everything that the Bison needed to have happen happened for them again. They're a half game out of third now.
And how about Bowden Skunberg's night? He had 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. Came within 4 assists of a triple.
Triple-double. Yep. But last night...
That's what you want out of your senior.
The Jacks lost, right? So, and UND won. UND's red hot. This is going to be a tough game for NDSU tomorrow, playing up in Grand Forks. Fighting Hawks have won 5 in a row. But they're both 5-3. Omaha's 5-4. And then everybody else has 4 losses. Remember what I said? I thought 11-5 could win it. I'm going to have to rephrase to me 10-6 might win the league, because we're now entering the back end of it. We have 8 more games to go.
I'm going to say it every podcast, and the reason is, and it's simple. It's a simple reason, is because of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
All your best players on your best teams tend to leaving teams with what you got like now.
There is one superstar. Mayo is it. Bruner's pretty darn good.
And he should have left last year. He had his opportunities.
Definitely opportunities to go. But this is where you're at with kind of parity now. There is no great team, and it is certainly different the last couple of years. The last 2 years in this league, we've had unbeaten regular season champs. Now we're looking at a potential 10-win team that could win the regular season championship this year. And the Bison aren't out of it. I'll say that right now. They win in Saturday.
Well, nobody's out of it.
South Dakota might be out of it at 2-6, but after that,
well, I'm seeing a regular season, but nobody's out of it in March.
No, but if you want it, it's all about matchup. You want to have a good matchup for the tournament.
Well, I guess
right.
I guess we saw Western Illinois 8 seed beat South Dakota State
did.
1 year, so I guess nobody's really out of it.
They did.
But this year, really, the 8 seed, there's no dog. I mean, absolute dog.
Nope.
There's no bow wow out there that you just know is going to get run over.
Yeah, that's a good win because things were going south, I think, after how the Bison lost the game at St. Thomas. And you and I were commiserating at halftime of the women's game last night, and I told you, hey, the Bison are up 8. And you looked at me and goes, okay, well, we've been down that road before.
Well, they're up 9 at St. Thomas at half.
And then the game
lost by 13
right,
or something.
And eventually the Jacks ended up taking the lead, and the Bison made some shots. You mentioned Waddles made some big shots, and a guy hadn't been playing. I really like Dissett. Dissett is athletic and can bring something to the table. The Minot kid's been pretty good as a freshman so far this year. And you mentioned whatever happened with Dave and Scunberg is in the past, and Bo has come to play over the last 5 games since that happened. There was a big game he had last night. And they close out Frost Arena. It'll be renamed. It's, First Bank and Trust Arena next year. So it's no longer Frost, and they got a win there.
Damari Wheeler-Thomas, by the way, before we move on to football, I'm guessing we're going to football. You're driving the ship here. But he had 2 turnovers in 42 minutes.
That's awesome. It's really good.
On the road at Frost.
Good. It's really good. He keeps developing.
Now, that's what you need. He's had games where that turnover margin's been a little not great.
Yep. So we sat here last Friday, recorded our last show, and we were deliberating about offensive coordinator candidates. And I don't think in our list of 20 to 25 that Jake Landry's name would have been on that list. And as officially announced this morning, he is the new offensive coordinator at North Dakota State. Our good friend Tom Miller first reported the news last Friday that he was going to leave UND after 6 days to take the job at NDSU. From what I spoke with Tim Polasek this week, that he's been in touch with Jake for a long time. This was a guy he had his eyes on for a while. And prior to this happening, there wasn't an opening for him to hire Jake onto the staff. And then when Tyler decided to leave, there was an opening, and Polasek didn't hesitate that this was the guy that he wanted to have on his staff to call the plays.
And you're saying, okay, let's get to the heart of the matter. Why 6 days at UND and here? Well, A.J. Blazek went to Wyoming for a week.
I was going to say 2 days. It might have been shorter,
3 days.
It was like 2 or 3 days before he was with Craig, and then Vanderbilt called.
This is not the first time it's happened in the college football world, and it won't be the last. It's, I guess you go where you're most comfortable and where you want to go, and because you can.
Access to winning is the new phrase. The best access to winning. Where is it at? It's in Fargo. And your best access to your future, too. Yep, exactly right. He's hitching his wagon to, he thinks, an up-and-coming head coach and Tim Polasek. And you know, I don't know if Bubba Schweigert's probably not going to go. This is probably his last job. I would imagine so. I would think so. And you don't even know how long Bubba's going to be there either. And that's probably why Danny Freund is no longer at UND either, that he left to go to South Dakota State. With the hire of Landry, who's also going to coach the running backs, Joe Bishawner will move to coach the tight ends and the fullbacks, something we were talking about last week. So now the staff is set. Everybody is in place, and that includes Randy Hedberg. And I was wrong on that. I thought, from what I was being told, the tea leaves, that if Tyler Roll wasn't going to be here, Randy wasn't. But I think he really likes Jake Landry. I told you that different. So, yep. I don't know how much longer. This might be it. 24 might be the swan song, but Hedberg will be back with the Bison staff. Think about the quarterback analyst expertise, if you will, if that's the right word, in the Bison coaching staff. So you have the head coach, who was a very good quarterback in college in Division III in Wisconsin. And has called plays. Has been called a lot of plays at the FBS level and the FCS level, and has won national championships calling plays. He's the head coach. You have the quarterback guru, who has got 3 guys in the NFL, and Randy Hedberg is the quarterback's coach. And then you have a quarterback's coach, who's now the running back's coach, who's the offensive coordinator. So you have 3 guys who have really dealt with quarterbacks extensively. So if Cole Payton and Cam Miller, there's going to be no shortage of advice, put it that way. But Bishawner is an interesting guy because we talked about him last week. And he's called plays. Right, he's called plays, and he's coached everywhere. He's kind of like utility man, could go and really coach any position, and that's why it probably makes a lot of sense for him to go into that room and And I'm sure those are guys he's worked with anyway. Being the running back coach, he's familiar with the guys who play tight end and fullback. And that's not as people listen to this know, that's not a throwaway position. That is a awfully important
not in this
job.
program.
That is an awfully important one. So it's Polisic at head coach, Landry offensive coordinator, running backs. Randy Hedberg is the QB coach. Dan Larson will stay at offensive line. Bashauner is doing the tight ends and the fullbacks. Steve Crutchley will stay at wide receiver. Then on the defensive side, Grant Olson will be the defensive coordinator and remain the linebackers coach as well. Nick Gazer is co-defensive coordinator and will stay with the D tackles. Jeff Phelps will be the defensive ends coach. Will Johnson is the cornerbacks coach, and Devin Kleiman is the safeties coach.
Yeah, there's no lack of experience on the offensive side. Now, the defensive side's a little different. This is Grant's first foray into being the coordinator, and you have two rookie head assistants in the defensive backfield, which will be something to look forward to when Sanders, the Sanders clan, Shador, and Coach Prime, and
Shiloh, and everybody, Travis Hunter. Yeah, that's going to be a heck of a challenge for game one to be thrown into that mix. Absolutely. But there's a mix here of everything. I mean, Will Johnson, we talked about last week, his Power 5 experience at USC and Oklahoma. Devin Kleiman, from what we've already been out recruiting, and again, I've gotten some more information there that he's really been impressive in the meeting rooms at his time at Kansas State. I am intrigued on the Grant piece of him now calling the plays. And also, we don't have an answer yet on special teams coordinator. That was Olson. We asked him that when he got the job right before Christmas. I don't know if that's still going to fall under his. That's a lot, Jeff. If it's defensive coordinator and linebacker,
it's
coach.
A big deal, obviously, too. I mean, it's a huge deal.
Yeah. And the Bison had some issues with special teams this year.
Bobby Houck is a special teams guru too, as a head coach in Montana, and we saw what Montana could do on special teams in the playoffs.
I think that's intriguing. We got to find that out too, of who's going to be special teams coordinator. But
Tim Polisic's the guy that brought the punt look. He went to Wake Forest in 06, 07, whatever,
that's right,
and brought back what everybody uses now.
The shield, right?
The shield. Yeah. Yep. That Tim instituted that at NDSU. Yep. Does he go back to handling that? I mean,
maybe he's done it in the past. Yeah. I mean,
I remember when he came back from that. We're going.
I do.
What is this?
Yep. I remember
the shield
that as well. Yep.
Oh.
So there. What do you make of the staff as a whole? It's an eclectic mix of experience and some youth here.
Yeah, I can't be critical of it because there's really you're not going to get great experience from the FBS and levels in the defensive backfield. I think you hire guys who have good pedigrees, and I think they've done that. I don't know if they can coach or not.
We're going to find out.
We think they can.
Yeah, we're going to find out pretty darn quick.
This is like recruiting when you say, how's the staff? I mean, are you throwing me on the spot, Dom?
Of course not. It's a podcast. Why wouldn't I? Come on.
But it's like recruiting. I'll tell you midway next year.
Okay, I'm not. Maybe I phrased this poorly. I'm not asking how. Just from what do you look like experience-wise? How do you think
good enough?
How do you think this
good enough.
Out? Okay.
Yep. Gazer, Phelps have been around a long time, so not like you have all rookies.
Correct.
In defense, Grant's been around enough now.
Heck, Grant's been coaching for 10 years now. I have to remember that. He's been done playing for 10 years. That's a long time. So that's not like he's just I think we have to, for people to remind, that's not a fresh coach. He's been out of the game for 10 years now. That's a ways to be stepped away from it. And for Johnson and Kleiman, this is how it works. Get your first job in the FCS, and then who knows, in a couple of years, maybe they're on
don't you want the guys that are hungry?
You're right.
Trying to make a name for yourself.
Yep. You don't want them to be here for.
I mean, we've seen the retreads from the Craig Bull era before. Yep. He kind of switched things around and hired Nick Gazer and started maybe going down that route. Yep. But he was bringing guys in from fired FBS programs, and then they'd be here for a year or two, and you don't know how vested they really were,
right? And how long they were going to be here anyway. Their eye looking out the door.
I mean, what would you rather have? I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's been proven that they've the title years were under the latter philosophy.
Yep. I want to ask you something here. Apparently I stirred the hornet's nest in South Dakota on this yesterday before we go.
Well, they hate you now?
They might.
Yeah.
If you saw the news yesterday that South Dakota finished out its football schedule, that they're going to play Northern State
yes,
to start next season.
Too many Division II schools
and
here.
South Dakota State also scheduled a game with Augie for next season. So both, because remember, 2024 is a 12-game FCS season. And I get it, Jeff. It's a great deal for those schools, for all the four involved. You're going to sell tickets. It's great because they're in-state schools. You're going to play the big boy FCS team in the state. To me, it looks bad. You don't want to be playing Division II school. If you're South Dakota State, you don't want any part of playing Augie, right? Don't you want to be playing another? I mean, would you rather play Western Oregon, or can you get, I don't know, your friends from Pine Bluff on the schedule? Can we get somebody there?
Mississippi Valley has made several trips north.
There's 130 FCS teams. Get Stonehill. Get somebody. Pay them.
Long Island.
You're right. Pay them. I think Long Island went and played the Jacks a couple years ago. Get them to $270,000. Get them to play and avoid that. It does not. The further clarification on the playoff committee. It's not a non-counter, but it doesn't help you. I just think it looks bad. There are teams out there. You have no thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, you said my thoughts. I'm just repeating what you said. I agree. You're a Division I school. Play Division I teams.
Yeah,
I mean, basketball. Everybody plays there too.
Actually, sometimes 3 or 4. They have to.
Everybody does that. But in football, no, not everybody does that.
No, and I just there's enough teams out there that I get it. You want to sell tickets? They want to sell tickets at the Dakota Dome. Okay, get the school from Aberdeen to come in. That'll do it. Are they really struggling to sell tickets in Brookings that they need to get Augie to come in? I mean, that to me seems odd. I'm going to do a little more reporting on this.
How much are they paying Augie?
I don't know the answer. That's why I need to do a little bit more reporting on it. But the Bison, the going rate for a non-con, like you look at the 24 schedule, right? Towson is a straight up home and home. I think they exchanged like $30,000 just for air travel, right? Tennessee State, same thing. That's a home and home. They're exchanging a little bit of money there. You look at like 25, they got Simos coming in, right? Kopak for the Bison schedule. They paid him $260,000. That's the going rate. If you want to get a non-conference home date, that's what you got to pay. And
they're at the Citadel to open 2025.
And I think that also is a home and home because remember, they're coming back here in a couple of years. They're exchanging a little bit of money there. But that the SEMO game, Austin P, that's coming in, I think was $275,000. These are not.
Now, is 25 a 12-game schedule?
It is. Yep.
So they have one game yet to schedule.
No, that's St. Thomas is the back end of that.
Oh, that's way in the end of the year.
Right. And St. Thomas, I think they paid $220,000 for that. That's the going rate. Play them. USD just did. Get St. Thomas on the schedule. I
2025, August 30th at the Citadel, September 6th Charleston, at Tennessee State.
That's the game in Nashville.
Do we stay out in the East Coast?
Can
we hang at your place?
Wait a minute. You're already going on vacation to Arizona.
Can we hang at your place?
You're already looking ahead.
I've never been to Oswego, New York.
Well, let me tell you something. New York's a long way from South Carolina and Tennessee, man. I don't know how great of a geography
Eastern time zone.
You're still ways away from
Tennessee is amazing from east to west. Have you ever looked at that?
I've never been to Tennessee.
It's got to be like an 8-hour drive from one end to the other.
Tennessee is one of the states I've never gone to, so that'll get off the checklist here.
East Tennessee State next year. Yep. It's 4-hour drive from Nashville.
Yeah, so it's not.
And Nashville's in the middle of the state.
It's not next door to anything. So, my last point on it. Just you can find teams to play. It doesn't look great. I remember when Georgia Southern bailed before the 2013 season, I'll never forget how angry Gene Taylor was. We saw him at the PSA.
Come on, Montana State bailing.
Man, that was another one that they had to. I had no other. It was whatever. Was it June or May? They had to find a team.
Was that the Ferris?
And that was Ferris State that came in that year. That's the last time the Bison football team has played a non-Division I. That has been a staple that I think Gene Taylor ingrained in Matt Larson. We are never going to do that. We're going to play no matter who it is. If it's North Alabama, who is a transitioning member, if it's Utah Tech, we are playing a Division I team here. That is going to be a staple on the schedule. And
it's not good for fans. I mean,
I don't think it is. I mean, granted, you can sell more tickets
to the opposing team, but if you're a season ticket holder from Rapid City for South Dakota State games, do you really want to go watch Augie?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Get a CAA team in. They have 16 schools in that league now. Get somebody to come east or west and do it. Hey, the Jacks, though, are running into the same thing the Bison have for years, that people are just saying no. And I knew that was going to happen, that they were just going to get 605 area code comes in. People are hanging up on them, and I don't blame them, but you got to start paying.
You used to hope it was South Dakota on the other end. Now that they've gotten better.
Yeah, right. It just strikes me. I don't care for that too much. But all right, safe travels. Have a great vacate. When are you back? Just so I can start planning here.
Oh, I don't know. Sometime in April. Is that too long?
Gosh darn. Summer League tournament you want to get back for?
I don't know.
You're just bragging about it, how crazy it could be. It might be fun to cover that. So there it is, folks. Latest edition, Kolpack and Izzo podcast. You can listen to all of our past episodes. They're available at inforum.com. You can also download them at Apple iTunes and Google Play. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. See you next time.